They turn out to be some kind of big lizard.
The Skraby Show starts now on 97.3 The Fan.
Hello and welcome into the Skraby Show for October 20th, 2025. Thank you for joining me. If you would like to join all of the other people watching, you can. You just need to go to YouTube or Facebook or Twitter. But YouTube right now is where everything is going on at the Skraby Show for YouTube. So youtube.com/the Skraby Show, SKRAB as in boy Y. Or you can go to Facebook, go to 97.3 The Fan. You can also go to the 97.3 The Fan YouTube to watch. And then X is at Matt Skraby. So I am here until about 6:40 something. And then we'll get you off to Monday Night Football between the Seattle Seahawks and the Houston Texans. Personally, not a matchup that I really care about all that much, but hey, we're gonna have it here on the station for you. Seattle's been pretty good this year. The NFC West has been pretty good this year. Also, Julio Rodriguez has been very good this year, and he just hit a solo shot for the Mariners in the ALCS after fouling a ball off of his leg. So he took one deep. Mariners lead now 2-1 over the Blue Jays in Toronto. Game 7. I love Game 7s. They're awesome. Obviously, because one team will have to go home, but 2-1 Mariners in the top of the third inning. All right, we have a couple things to talk about tonight before we head on out to Monday Night Football. And the first one is going to be the Albert Pujols, I guess not a Hall of Famer as I called him earlier, but soon to be Hall of Famer, Albert Pujols, is going to be interviewing for the managerial position with the Padres on Wednesday. And I know that there are lots of thoughts about this. And I don't blame anyone for their thoughts because it's something that I think we all were thinking when we knew that the Padres were going to have to hire a new manager, which is do not hire a first-time manager. Do not hire a first-time manager who has no experience managing in the big leagues. And I still kind of I still subscribe to that, but if there is one guy who I'm willing to look the other way on his managerial experience, it's going to be Albert Pujols. I mean, you got to think that he can hit. He obviously hit for power, so he could help those guys out with some of the hitting. Now, what I am concerned about with this Albert Pujols becoming the manager of the Padres, if that does happen, again, there's a lot that has to happen for that to go down. So they have to be able to agree, and who knows if they're going to be able to agree on a contract, all that stuff. But if you bring in Albert Pujols, number one, you have showed the fans at least you're willing to bring in a guy with experience or with major league playing experience. At least you're able to bring in the big name. At least you're willing to bring in the big name, because I would hope that they wouldn't just look the other way on this and not interview him at all, but they are going to interview him. And earlier today, it was reported that the Angels and Albert Pujols, he's no longer considered a candidate for being the Angels manager, which we had Alden Gonzalez on earlier. If you would like to hear that interview, you can go to Gwen and Chris on YouTube. And we have that interview up also on 97.3thefansd.com. Jacob says on the chat, the only way he can help the Padres with hitting is if he's in the lineup. I understand why you would say that, but I mean, if you're going to get hitting advice from someone if you're going to get hitting advice from a former player, a guy like Albert Pujols is perfect for hitting advice. The guy hit over 700 home runs. He has a pedigree of winning. He knows how to win championships. He's been through it. He is a guy who experienced what it was like to play on a daily basis in the major leagues for many, many, many years in a place like St. Louis, which is very, very hot, which has nothing to do with this conversation, but he was there for a long time. I think Albert Pujols is someone that these guys are going to look up to. And I know that the players are going to look up to him for sure. Juan says, I love it because the guy is a GOAT. Hopefully, he'll bring some accountability to our players who think they're studs and choke in the playoffs. And then goes on to say, you listen to a stud who knows how to hit. I don't know that I could call the players chokers in the playoff, even though, yes, they have not hit in the playoffs the last couple of years. But as we're seeing, there are teams that just do not hit in the playoffs. We saw it with the Brewers. That was a display of not being able to hit. But I do think that he can communicate to the players in a way that will make them listen. And here's one concern for me. I remember when we had Bob Melvin as the manager of the Padres. We went out to spring training and we kind of we interviewed him. We talked to him about what makes him a good manager and what makes him a manager that players like to play for. And he took a second to think about it. And what he said really stuck with me. And that is because he was, during his playing career, catcher, and he wasn't the best catcher in the major leagues. He wasn't even in the top 5 of best catchers or top 10 of best catchers in the major leagues. So what he said was, I am able to identify with the players who struggle when they're in a rut because I was there too. And I had to do things and adjust and work hard to make sure that I stayed on the major league roster. And so that is why I think, and Chris brought this up earlier on the show. He said sometimes these big name legendary players don't make great coaches because they haven't really struggled like some of the, guys on the roster that aren't the superstar of the team. And so if there's any sort of perspective that Albert Pujols might not be able to share with his team if he becomes the Padres manager, the perspective is that he can't share is that he was ever a guy who was on the, for most of his career, he was never a guy on the bubble. And so maybe he can't understand that. Now, this is just a small thing. And it's just a little bit of what I'm trying to come up with in my head as to some drawbacks for Albert Pujols. Again, you could just mention no major league coaching experience. No, he does have managerial experience with the Dominican Republic team, but I don't know that that's the part that scares me a little bit. And it is, does his lack of managerial experience, does it make it so that he is not as effective as a manager? And I would think that there are going to be some points where things are going to get a little weird for Albert Pujols if he does become a major league manager, because we've had coaches tell us on this show that things speed up sometimes and they go quick. And once they get going, it's really easy to let things get out of control. And I think that Albert Pujols, if he were to be the manager, they're going to have to surround him with a lot of really smart, good coaches. I think he's going to need to lean on his coaching staff to help him get through everything. And if that comes at the cost of Ruben Niebla not becoming a manager, it could. I mean, he could be, after his contract's up, or if the Padres give permission, they could go out and they could have Ruben Niebla become a manager somewhere else. There's a lot of teams right now that have openings for a manager, but I can't think of a bigger splash than to. I can't think of a bigger splash. I was racking my brain all day today trying to think of who they could hire that would be a bigger splash for the Padres themselves. And I don't think that Bruce Bochy is the right guy for this job. I don't think that he's going to connect with this clubhouse. I really don't. And I'm saying that without any sort of knowledge behind that, but there's something that just tells me this clubhouse will not connect to and I hate to be ageist, but an older manager. Albert Pujols isn't isn't in his 70s or however old Bruce Bochy is. I think that someone like Bruce Bochy is right for a different team, but I don't think he's right for the Padres, and they've already said as much as they're not going to pursue that angle and go down the Bruce Bochy road. I know it's nostalgic. I know it seems like a really great idea, but for me, I would much rather hire a guy like Albert Pujols than see what happens with a Bruce Bochy over the next couple of years. I mean, listen, the next couple seasons for the Padres are absolutely critical. They have to take advantage of the next few seasons, or else that window will close. That is something that I don't think we're prepared to really think about right now. And it was something that kind of hit me over the weekend. This hire of manager for the Padres is going to be extremely important. This is the guy that's going to get most likely going to get the last final years of Manny Machado, Xander Bogaerts, Yu Darvish. So they're going to have to maximize those things. They still got Fernando, who's young. They still got Jackson Merrill, who's young. But Manny Machado, massive part of this team, huge part of the core. This next managerial hire has to do something to make sure that they take advantage of it. It's very important. And I don't know that you want to go the Bruce Bochy route. I don't know. I know Tony said Joe Madden last week. I don't know if you want to go that route. I want a guy who's open-minded. I want a guy who can connect with the players. And I want a guy who can push the players. I want someone who could push the players when they needed to be pushed. And when they need a little bit of a little bit more good. What am I trying to say here? Not coddle them, but maybe just be there for them when they're struggling. I firmly believe that took me forever to say, by the way. I firmly believe that you come down on players when things are going really well because things are going well, and you be there for them when things are going poorly because that's when they need the support. So this managerial hire, again, is very important. When we get back here on the Skraby Show, I gotta tighten up my brakes today because I only have 40 minutes of a show. But we're gonna hear from Alden Gonzalez, who was on with us earlier from ESPN. He had some thoughts on Albert Pujols and what kind of things he could do with the Padres. So we'll hear about that. We're also talking about this Holiday Bowl that almost went overseas to Saudi Arabia. So stick with me. Skraby Show until about 6:45 here on 97.3 The Fan. All guests on 97.3 The Fan join us via the David P. Shapiro Fan Hotline. If you're facing criminal charges, trust David P. Shapiro criminal defense attorneys helping clients regain control since 2010. Visit davidpshapirolaw.com. Matt Skraby, Skraby Show, 97.3 The Fan. If you would like to watch YouTube at The Skraby Show or 97.3 The Fan, just search those. But I wanted to talk about something that is coming back to the station that I think everybody is very excited about, and it's the biggest fan contest. Now, I think the biggest fan from last year is actually in the YouTube chat right now, Rod, but the biggest fan contest returns on Monday, November 3rd. The grand prize is a night in the Odyssey Suite with 20 tickets for you and your friends to watch a future Padres game with the whole fan staff. Register your name at 973thefansd.com/biggest fan and listen when we announce names each day at 9 a.m., 1 p.m., and 5:30 p.m. for your chance to qualify. So go make sure you register 973thefansd.com/biggest fan, and you will be able to qualify for that. Jacob says, we're back to Pujols. Bring Pujols in as a hitting coach. Let him prove himself under someone with some experience. Victor Rodriguez played in 17 games. He has no business teaching anyone how to hit at a major league level. I don't know about all that stuff in the end because there are a lot of coaches out there that did not have success at the major league level or even the professional level. So can't say that all of the players or coaches out there that didn't have great professional careers, I can't say that they all can't coach. And I'm not even saying that about Victor Rodriguez. But I do know I guess I don't really know, but my suspicion is that if Albert Pujols is interviewing for manager jobs, he doesn't want to be a hitting coach. I don't think he wants to sit behind someone and be a hitting coach for a couple years. I think he wants to jump right in as the manager. And, it does slightly scare me to have someone with no managerial experience at the major league level for, any sort of time outside the World Baseball Classic. It does scare me a little bit. But I've had a couple messages now telling me the Dominican League in winter ball is one of the craziest leagues in the world for baseball. So if you can manage there, you can manage anywhere, which I don't necessarily think that that's a lie. Baseball gets crazy around the world, and I have seen some of those games in the Dominican Republic, and they do get crazy. ESPN's Alden Gonzalez was on with us earlier today, and he was the one who kind of broke the news that Albert Pujols will be interviewing with the Padres. And here is what Alden had to say about us and Pujols, or say to us about Pujols.
Yeah, there are a lot of managerial openings this offseason, and Albert Pujols has been a pretty prime figure in this. We thought for a while that he was the front runner to get the Angels job, and it looks like that's just not going to happen. They've stopped talking. There's been a breakdown in terms of compensation, but maybe also in philosophy and what they want to do or what their visions are. At this point, that's not going to happen, and they've extended their search out to other people. And yeah, Albert Pujols is going to interview with the Padres on Wednesday. He's also drawn interest from the Orioles, though there's no interview scheduled there. And as it relates to the Padres specifically, look, as soon as the news came out that Mike Schill was retiring from his position, Albert Pujols was somebody who was, pointed out to by a lot of people in the industry about, hey, somebody who might be a fit for a role like this. Obviously, like the two key guys in that clubhouse, Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr., they would probably vouch for him as manager. Now, how far will that ultimately take him? I don't know. But, the fact that he's going to sit down and interview, I think, to me, the bigger thing here, whether or not he gets this job, whether or not he gets the Orioles job or some other job this offseason, it's pretty clear that Albert Pujols is being looked at as a serious managerial candidate. Even though he's outside of a stint in winter ball, he hasn't really done this before. I think it's pretty clear at this point that at some point, whether it's this offseason or another one, he's going to manage in the big leagues.
So would you want the Padres to take him now, or would you want the Padres to have him go to another team and then hire someone else? I mean, you have the Giants thinking about hiring the coach from Tennessee to be their manager, which I think is much, much, much more of a risk than Albert Pujols is, because that the manager from Tennessee, Tony Vitello, he's someone who doesn't have major league managerial experience. Man, that word is hard today. But I would think that's much more of a risk. And I really do think that Buster Posey might be overthinking it a little bit. I know that Chris and Tony told me, said that they didn't feel that way, that he was overthinking. But I think when you go, and there's nothing wrong, and I've said this a million times on this show, there's nothing wrong with doing things different as long as they work. And I don't know that Buster Posey has years and years and years for this guy to learn how to manage at the major league level, not to mention all the money that has to be put into getting him to come to the Giants. They would have to buy him out from Tennessee. They would have to pay some salary. Then they would have to pay him a salary to be a manager of the Giants. So there is some blockades in place that could make this very difficult. But I'm not someone who would like to see my team hire a guy like Tony Vitello. Nothing against Tony Vitello, but he's a guy who I would say have him come be a hitting coach or have him come be a bench coach and then see what he can do, because he doesn't have the major league stuff behind him. He doesn't have the major league experience. He doesn't have the major league pedigree behind him. So that seems like a little bit of a reach to me. And I know that Tony Vitello probably has had a little more experience than Jace Tingler did, but and I'm not saying that they're going to end up the same if they do indeed become, or if Tony Vitello does become the manager of the Giants. But if I'm a Giants fan and they go, our new manager, Tony Vitello, I'm like, what? You guys never managed a game in his life at the major league level? Like that does not speak to me. And I think AJ Preller, I'm always talking in Padres terms. Buster Posey, I think that's him overthinking a little bit. So I will take a future Hall of Famer like Albert Pujols and see what he could do. You heard Alden say it in the clip. Fernando and Manny, they're going to co-sign on this. But one of the qualities, and I will say this one more time, one of the qualities that I am looking for in the next manager is someone who is going to push these guys. Someone who maybe doesn't oversee the clubhouse, because Mike Schilt, it was said that he didn't oversee the clubhouse, but he let the players kind of govern the clubhouse. So the players can, for the most part, do that. But then I need Albert Pujols to be someone who's like, hey, you hit this gear, I need you to get to this gear and help them get there. That's what I need. That's what I think the Padres need. I don't think they need some rah-rah skipper. I don't think they need someone with a lot of energy. I don't think they need any of that. I just think they need someone who they could look up to, who's already won championships, already won MVPs, knows what it takes to get to that point. Johnny said, how well has it worked out for us when Manny controls the room? I mean, I don't know what you want. We don't actually know. We don't. Clay says, I would not be inclined to hire a first-time manager in Pujols, especially since he is just 3 years removed from being a player. He may be a good manager for the DR team. All were already pros. That's a fair take, Clay. You're very fair. Always fair, Clay. So I will listen to that. Jay says, don't forget about what happened with Larry Boa, a very high-quality major leaguer, super intense, and couldn't relate to anyone who isn't exactly like him. Pujols was a very intense player. It's a good point. That's a very good point right there about the being intense. But have you seen Albert Pujols lately? It doesn't seem like he's all that intense. He seems like he's kind of a calm dude. Maybe that's completely going to go away once he starts managing. But I know that this first year manager thing is a big deal. And like I said, this is a big hire for the Padres. A massive, massive, massive hire for the Padres. All right, this is the Skraby Show. You're listening to Matt Skraby here, 97.3 The Fan. Football talk on 97.3 The Fan is presented by Paramount Plus. You can't count on much these days, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. Watch your local NFL game live every Sunday on CBS and Paramount Plus all season long. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today. When we get back, we'll have a very short time to talk about it, but the Holiday Bowl flirted with the idea of going overseas with their game, and the El Paso Chihuahuas did something that I didn't think I would ever see, and I will bring it to all of you when we get back here on the Skraby Show, 97.3 The Fan.
Quinn and Chris.
Matt Skraby here with you. Final couple minutes of the Skraby Show. I'll be back with the Skraby Show Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. So look forward to that. We do have a daily gripe. We do have a daily gripe. That's what I meant to say. No Halloween tonight because I'm running out of time, so I'll talk about it tomorrow when I have more time. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the Holiday Bowl, and we'll do that in just a second. But the El Paso Chihuahuas, one of the Padres minor league teams, put up a tweet today that was very unfortunate. Very unfortunate, which it says, big congrats to former Chihuahua Blake Snell headed to the World Series final. Puts a picture of Blake Snell in the Chihuahuas jersey. This is something that should not happen. You cannot be congratulating players that are no longer on the team. You could not be congratulating players, according to Brandon. Snell played one game there in 2022. Give me a break, El Paso. I'm with you, Brandon. Give me a break, El Paso. This is just clearly pandering for some likes and some retweets. But come on. He was a former Padre. You can't do this. I know the Dodger people out there are probably laughing right now. But come on. Don't wish him good luck in the World Series. It kind of makes me angry, actually. All right. The Holiday Bowl. The Holiday Bowl, and Kirk Kenny released this article earlier today, or yesterday. I don't actually remember when it came out. But Mark Neville, the CEO of Sports San Diego, said that they are always considering ideas to make them better, to keep things fresh and new and innovative. And so one of the ideas that they had was they would go to Saudi Arabia to hold this Holiday Bowl. And immediately, I guess, officials from the ACC, the Atlantic Coast Conference, said, no, we are not going to be doing that because it's far and it's, dangerous. It's all the above. Taking an entire football team to Saudi Arabia is not cheap either. So that would have to be a part of it. I understand that sometimes you need to make decisions to survive. And I understand sometimes you need to make decisions that are unpopular to survive. I don't understand why we keep trying to move American sports to another part of the world. Like this is what bothers me is the people in charge. They realize that taking our sports international is going to make more money for them. I do not care about how much money a league makes. I do care about how much money the Holiday Bowl makes. And it's not even just a little. It's sad to me that the Holiday Bowl is not doing well. And I point everything to Chip Kelly. They lost a ton of money when Chip Kelly and UCLA decided they weren't going to play 5 hours before the game. But I don't think this was it. And obviously it wasn't it because the ACC said no. And once the ACC said no, it's exactly what, that's how it always was going to go. But a partial answer to the question of why they're trying to take our sports elsewhere, especially, and this is specific to the Holiday Bowl, it's because the people that got you there are no longer really helping financially. And if they are, it's not enough. So this is why Mark Neville had to do this. Because it's just something they had to look into to possibly keep their event alive. And I think Sports San Diego does some great stuff. But I'm very happy that this did not end up going down in the Holiday Bowl being moved to Saudi Arabia.
What's annoying Skraby today? Let's find out. It's time for the Daily Gripe.
Yeah, a ton of different things out there about why that wasn't a good idea, but it's not going to happen, so we don't have to worry about it. I had more to say, but the show has crept up on me. The big dumper, homers for the Mariners, Game 7. Mariners up 3-1 now, top of the 5th inning. All right, I'm running out of time. How quickly can I get through this? Okay, the Daily Gripe today. Some of you people have already heard it because I brought it up during the Big Five. But I was walking Lucky, came across a snake. I hate snakes more than anything. I saved his life. And then as I was walking away from the snake, I turned around and looked back. And I was like, what is happening behind me? Is there anything behind me? Is there anyone I need to make aware? Coming around the corner, 4 people with their dog. So I waited around. To tell them that there was a snake on the trail. And they were like, why are you telling us this? They were so not into me telling them about a snake on the trail. I just wanted to save their dog. That's all I wanted to do. Save their dog. But they acted like I was personally attacking them by saying that there was a snake on the road or on the trail. Was it a rattler? I think it was, Brandon. I think it was. So next time you see a snake on a trail and you see some people, make sure they know that there's a snake on a trail. There's a snakes on a plane joke there somewhere, but I'm not going to go there. All right, that's it for me tonight. Next up, Monday Night Football, Texans at Seahawks. We'll be back with you tomorrow with a fantabulous sports game show on 97.3 The Fan. Have a good night, everybody.